Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is attacks reportedly are coming on U.S. soil, and we're even going to list some watch cities. First from Newsmax says Jordanian nabbed in Texas studying how to build bombs. Well, la-di-da. Well, what do you expect, all right? A Jordanian national plotting to attack a Jewish gathering and studying how to build bombs. All right, you could also say a religious gathering. Okay, so the attacks on religions, Christians especially, and Jews are about to start. Studying how to build bombs, was arrested and tested last month on charges he unlawfully possessed a firearm. He made statements to others to support the killing of individuals of particular religious faiths and referenced an event in Houston for members of a particular religious group. According to a federal judge, he faces up to 15 years in federal prison. Quote, was an alien illegally and unlawfully in the United States. He has been in direct contact with others who share a radical mindset that's straight out of Chris Reed's dream, had been conducting physical training and has trained with weapons to possibly commit an attack. Revelation 18:24 says, and in her, speaking of America, was found the blood of prophets and of saints and all that were slain upon the earth. In other words, they're coming for us. Brothers and sisters, you better know and understand that you are a target. Devil's coming for you. And for that, I'm going to ask you a favor today. I'm going to ask you to help me spread the warning. It does not cost you anything. All we're going to ask you to do is slide down to the bottom and click a like. I'm asking for at least 10,000 likes, because the algorithm will then begin to send it out, hopefully, begin to send it out to other people. And if you'll also click share and send to your friends and subscribe, it all helps the word to get out, and it doesn't cost you a penny. Just takes, matter of fact, you could already done it by the time I finish talking here. And also don't forget to click that bell, because that way it'll notify you when I post a new program. So here's a reminder. Chris Reed said the scene changed, getting down to the point was, I read, so goes Israel, so goes America. I'll read that again because that's important. So goes Israel, so goes America. In other words, what happens in Israel is about to happen in America. Okay, so what's happening in Israel? Well, Israel just got attacked. A whole bunch of people killed, all sorts of bad stuff. I'm not going to get into the news part of it. We can all see that in the news. So what it's saying is whatever we see in Israel is about to come to America, and we're seeing terrorist attacks, so it's reasonable to say we're about to see the same thing in America. UN official, people in Gaza living on bread need water. Okay, let me remind you, what we see in Israel, we're about to see in America. Now, I know you're going to be saying, yeah, well, that's the people in Gaza, but that's not what the word said. The word said, so goes Israel, so goes America. And of course, we know that Gaza actually is part of the land given to Abraham from the Nile River all the way over to the Euphrates River. That includes Gaza. The average person in Gaza is living on 2 pieces of Arabic bread made from flour the UN stockpiled in the region. Okay, so it's not very healthy. Whereas if you go to Joseph's Kitchen and you get their flour, you make wheat, or you make bread with their wheat, it's going to be far more nutritious. Yet the main refrain now being heard in the streets is water, water. Again, in an emergency, the number one cause of death, surprisingly, is drinking contaminated water. People get thirsty, and they're used to having clean water. They're not used to getting sick from drinking bad water, and so they're very susceptible to it. They drink the contaminated water, they get sick. Matter of fact, one of our speakers had a after-death experience, and he had it because he drank contaminated water. It's actually very deadly. That's why you should have a Berkey water filter, which, by the way, we still are out of them, and we understand that they're supposed to be arriving in the next week to 10 days, so we are told. But he said, now people are beyond looking for bread, it's looking for water. Many people are relying on brackish or saline groundwater, if at all. In other words, you best have something to purify your water. U.S. officials hold their breath for Iranian cyberattacks. Now, this is the main thing I wanted to get to today. The U.S. government is preparing for a potential onslaught of Iranian cyberattacks in retaliation for support for Israel in its conflict with Hamas. I don't think it's just cyber attacks. I think it's literally things blowing up. It's far from just Israel at risk of cyber attacks from the Hamas-aligned regime's cyber operatives. U.S. officials say they also see the U.S. and other nations that support Israeli government as likely targets. We believe that. Such attacks could come in the form of attempting to damage critical water systems or electricity. Also, the FBI Director Christopher Wray testified to the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs on Tuesday, saying that Iran is planning an imminent attack on U.S. critical infrastructure, and they are worried about cyber attacks in the U.S. to the fore, and will be able to adapt and grow to accommodate threats on multiple fronts. Well, first of all, I have serious questions about whether some of the alphabet agencies are really for us or against us. Iran backs a network of sophisticated cyber operators akin to those that work with Russia and China, which, by the way, I should back up and say, I seem to remember saying something bad about our president, and I apologize for that. I didn't intend to say that. So while I don't like the guy, I don't intend to say anything bad about it. So there you go. Iran backs a network of sophisticated cyber operators akin to those that work with Russia and China, who have the capacity to tunnel into government systems and or disable computers, entire computer networks. Tehran has launched attacks in the U.S. in the past, but the risk is far higher and more dangerous in light of conflict in Gaza. Tehran has long funded Hamas and other pro-Palestinian groups. He says, I could envision the possibility that we should get prepared for this effort to attack our critical infrastructure and our, here it is again, electrical grid, our, for example, air traffic system, our water supplies. We already have prophecies saying that the electric grid is going down, the water is going to be poisoned, so you should get ready for that. And of course, for the electric grid, we'll send you to solarsurge.net. That's where I got my system, and I really like it. Anyway, a DHS official, speaking anonymously to reporters as a condition of a briefing last month, said, in the days following the October 7th attack by Hamas militants on Israel, that the DHS held a call with the FBI and other agencies with almost 400,000 law enforcement officials throughout the country to discuss a potential physical or cyber threat stemming from the conflict. In other words, so goes Israel, so goes America. What you see in Israel is heading to us, specifically including religious organizations. The officials said that they're providing information to the faith-based and information sharing and analysis organization. In other words, there are threats to U.S. religious groups and churches. What did Coverstone say? He said he saw churches burning. The websites of the U.S. religious organizations being defaced in connection to the conflict, and hackers taking over online meetings or social media accounts was more likely. In other words, the devil is raising his head even more. Now, I'm going to have to change the words, and, I like to give sources. On this source, I can't give the source. As a matter of fact, I made a whole program from this source one time. As soon as I clicked stop, the Holy Spirit spoke very seriously and very specifically to me, said, you put that out, and they will take you off. Well, this is from the same source, so I can't quote the source, and I believe it to be true, but I can't prove that it's true. But I believe that it probably is. So this article was about a hotel room being raided by the good guys. One of the bad guys inside reached for his gun, was shot dead. Two others raised their hands saying, don't shoot. They found an assortment of homemade appearing glass jars, pressure cookers, and devices to start them. See, I have to be very careful with my words. You know what I'm talking about. They were masquerading as innocent civilians, but were actually members of elite enforcement groups from one of the alphabet groups. In other words, people in high places in our nation are trying to kill us. They're trying to start problems. I'll go on. October 12, 2010, Nathan Leal. I was in a downtown area of an unknown large city. I saw a newspaper vending machine that sold the USA Today newspaper. One of the lead stories was about Seattle, Washington. The headline read, "Seattle Celebrates." The letters were huge across the page. The photo of downtown Seattle included a fireworks display. Now, that could be, it could be 4th of July, but it also could be Christmas or New Year's Eve, okay? So it's coming close to that. Over the buildings of downtown Seattle. So that's one of the cities that is on the watch list, Seattle. The photo turned into a movie and there was a sudden explosion. One of the buildings erupted into a ball of fire, smoke, ash, and debris. The plume rose as high as the tallest downtown building in the photograph. It looked similar to the explosion we saw on 9/11, the World Trade Center towers. My vantage point changed to the sky, looking down at the damage. There was debris and ash scattered throughout the downtown area. There were many crushed cars with ash all over them. The damage seemed contained to one building. Now let's go to another one. January 2020. It started with me in the clouds flying, and I hear a voice that says, "I want to show you something." I said, "God, is that you? Come up here. I want to show you something you asked to see." Instantly, I'm standing on a cloud. I walk over to the edge and look down. "Okay, Lord, what do you want to show me?" I'm seeing the 48 continental states, Canada, Mexico are covered by clouds lower than me. I say, "This is cool, Lord. What am I to see?" Pay attention and watch. I see a mushroom cloud form over Seattle. The Bible says, "In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established." That's why I'm asking to send this out. I'm asking for 10,000 likes. So if everybody watching would just slide down and click like, it will help us a lot. I saw a mushroom cloud over Seattle, then more to follow. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Dallas, Texas, I believe Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., then Miami. That's a pretty good watch cities list. There were no planes, no missiles, but I knew these were nukes. Okay, that sounds like suitcase nukes. I'd like to think that that's way on down the road, but I can't guarantee it. Then several smaller explosions in several major cities went off all over. But small towns and country areas were not touched. I could feel that millions of souls died, and the screams I won't soon forget. I never saw troops moving or heard any warning sirens. After this, I saw America begin to quake. That could also be the New Madrid fault, which is probably going to happen because we split Israel, which is probably going to happen in Omer, which is in the first 6 months of 2024. Oh, that's a guess. Part of that we know. It split from the Great Lakes down to Ohio River to the Gulf of Mexico. That's telling us this is all real close. Click like. Send this out to your friends. It was at this point I realized what I was seeing and cried out for mercy. The voice said, "This must happen. It cannot be stopped." The next scene seemed like some time passed, I'm not sure how long, and I saw a massive tidal wave hit the East Coast. So that's associated with what the prophet from Puerto Rico saw, where a meteor hit, caused a tsunami over on the East Coast, and then, of course, that split the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So they may be all associated, may be very, very close. I saw a massive tidal wave hit the East Coast. I saw the bottom half of California break off and sink into the ocean, and quakes hit several areas. Subs started to pop up on both coasts. Now, I'm thinking that this is a while later. I knew there was no rapture in the dream, and everyone was caught unaware. Then clouds rushed in and blocked my view. I started to wake up, but asked the Lord, when will this happen? Soon is all I heard. Bible says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. We have 2 or 3 witnesses on almost all of this. Many we have 12, 14 different witnesses. And that's the reason I'm asking you to click like. Click like and share and send this to your friends. Now, I have had some of my closest friends come up to me and say, what's happening on November the 8th of 2023? The answer is, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Someone sent this to me in an email as a watch date, and they had lots of really good reasons. I already covered that in the past, so I won't get into it again. But here's the problem. So I'm recording this at 2:39 p.m. on 11/6/23. It'll be posted on the 7th. By the time you watch it, if you watch it every day, it will already be in November the 8th. So it won't be but about 48 hours to know if what happens or if anything happens. And I do not know what happens. I do not know if anything happens. But as a watchman, I feel obligated to pass it along. So I passed it along. However, Coverstone, August 24th of 2020, says, I saw a calendar. It was turned to the month of November. Now, that was back in 2020, and the things I'm about to read to you did not happen in 2020, or 21, or 22, or even so far in 23. But could it be they're about to start happening? I saw a calendar was turned to the month of November and shadows flickering all over it. I first saw a light in the sky, a very large, bright light, then darkness. I began to make out through the dawn's haze and the fog that many Americans were in emergency shelters. There seemed to be snow on the ground. It was dirty and gray, almost like ash. Fallout? There were people huddled together and shivering. Wintertime, that would be correct in November. Individuals lying on cots, suitcases all over the place, desperate looks on the faces of almost everyone because no one had prepared. No one believes the prophets. No one believes God can speak and give warnings anymore. And so I had one person actually tell me, well, when it happens, tell me until then, I'll just live my life. They don't want to hear. There were encouragers in the crowds. That's us. All wearing crosses, and they stood out emotionally from everyone else because they had hope. They had Jesus in their heart. Smiles on their faces, checking on people, trying to show patience and kindness. Some of the people got angry at them, but the encouragers just kept encouraging. Spreading the gospel is what they're trying to do, trying to help. Some businesses were shuttered in the bigger cities. So I saw gas stations that looked as if they had just been walked away from. I saw headlines that read, shock and awe in the U.S. We have not seen those headlines or anything close to them. As well as one that read, UN steps in to help host nation. There was a large amount of quiet over the country, almost as if it had not awakened fully from a bad dream. The nation was fitful and suspicious and leery of what was coming next. Very hesitant. So goes Israel. So goes America. Are you getting this warning? Send it out. The white figure appeared and said, remain braced as this calm comes before a gathering storm that recovery will have a hard time finding. Remain braced as this calm comes before a gathering storm that recovery will have a hard time finding. Meaning, this one is going to be a bad one. I remember Dimitri came to Michael Baldea's grandson and said, storm's coming, my boy, and it's going to be a bad one. Is that storm about to hit maybe even November the 8th or maybe even November? I don't want to think so. Matter of fact, I started not to even put this out today because I was thinking, nah, we got more time. And I thought, I don't know that. So as a watchman, I think I'm obligated to tell you. Matter of fact, Leslie and I had a very interesting discussion. She, being a prophet, is skeptical of a lot of things. And that's good. That's what prophets are supposed to do because they know if they miss it, they're in deep trouble. Whereas if you read Ezekiel 33:6, if we see the sword coming, and if we don't blow the trumpet, then their blood is on our head, meaning it's a difference. Prophets can't miss. They better not miss. Whereas watchmen, if we even think there is a sword coming, we are commanded to warn. And if we see the sword coming and we don't warn, then their blood is on our head. That's a very big different assignment. I'm a watchman. Probably if you're watching this program, you're a watchman. And that means if you think what I'm telling people is true, you better click like. You better click share. You better send this out to your friends. They might not believe it. They might laugh at you. You might lose a friend over it. Well, if you lose a friend over this, that's maybe a good friend to lose. But I'm saying we don't want that blood on our head. We don't want to have to explain, you knew it. You knew this was coming, and you knew it was true, and you didn't warn people. Now, I guess maybe I should take a second. There's a little bit of risk in that. You know, if you talk to my sons and my daughter, they will tell you, Dad, I've been listening to this warning all of my life. It hasn't come yet. I understand. One of these days, it's going to come. And because I know it's coming one of these days, I have to warn people. I have to. And if you're a watchman, if you're watching this program, even occasionally, that tells you you are a watchman. If you are a watchman, if you don't send this out to people you know it, and they don't know it, you're responsible. Are you willing to carry that? Are you willing to be responsible for their actions? No. You're going to send it out. I think I'm going to do a couple more of these. August 28th, 2020, down at Coverstone. I saw long food lines. You better get yourself some food. josephskitchen.com. Long food lines. I saw people waiting for what seemed like hours, standing in line, not in cars. Why weren't they in cars? Why weren't they in cars? Well, maybe it's because the electricity is all out and their cars won't start because Suitcase Nukes went off. And I don't know if I'm going to get to it today, but I believe it was Jason Meeks saw that the electricity, the Suitcase Nukes, all of that was released when there was a new financial system coming in. Have you heard? Have you heard about a new financial system coming in? Oh, yes, we've heard that. Could it be that's about to happen? I saw long food lines, people waiting for what seemed like hours, standing in line, not in cars, throughout the nation. I saw ships and ports on both the east and west coast sitting idle. There was nothing moving at sea, nothing. Well, that hasn't happened fully, but that did kind of happen back in 2020, 21, during the pandemic thing. But it hasn't happened to this extent, means this has not happened yet. It's unfulfilled. So it says, I saw a headline that said the Baltic Dry Index is dead. That means nothing on the planet. No ships are moving. That's not here yet. But a suitcase nuke, or a bunch of them, like 35 of them, what the rumor is, going off all across America at pretty much the same day, yeah, that might do it. I saw what looked like shopping malls that had been converted into shelters of living quarters, like after the Hurricane Katrina and people sheltered in football stadiums. Businesses in those shopping malls shuttered. People on cots, food outreaches, people who are misplaced. This was not like a homeless shelter. This is something bad had happened, and people were in shelters. Oh, it's probably not going to happen in 2024, Stan. Well, I kind of think you're right. And I pray you're right. But as a watchman, I'm commanded, in light of all the other things, I'm commanded to tell people, like you are, click like, share, and subscribe. I continue to be shuttered. I continue to see shuttered properties, people in homes wearing coats. Why? Electricity's off, and they don't have any heat. With closed curtains, it's been a consistent vision. People inside their homes looking out what's going on. When I look at people looking out their curtains, I see more of this dark, gray, snow-like stuff on the road. Fallout. I think there's no questions to talk about Suitcase Nukes. It wasn't pure white snow like after the first fresh snowfall. Have you heard how close the Federal Reserve is to being broke? And then, of course, we have the thing November the 15th where they may be shutting down the government if they don't come up with some kind of agreement. I don't know. I keep praying and asking God to show me these things, but He just won't tell me sometimes. Are you ready? Have you asked Jesus to forgive your sins? If you were somehow next to a suitcase nuke when it went off, and all of a sudden you wake up and there's Jesus, you're at the pearly gates, however that all works. He says, why should I let you into my heaven? Do you have the answer to that? Well, I've been a good person. I mean, I hadn't hurt anybody. I've never killed anybody. I mean, and I even went to church a couple of times. Is that the correct answer? The correct answer is, yes, Lord, because I have you in my heart. I ask you into my heart. I've done my best to live and walk with you. Do you have that? If you don't have that, then you're not ready to go through what's about to happen. I saw headlines reading, nationwide outages plague the Southwest. What's that talking about? Grid down, no electricity. Ask yourself this. If your electricity went off, how do you heat your house? Well, I have natural gas. Okay. How do you burn that natural gas? How are you going to feed your family? SolarSurge.net can help you get one. I saw headlines reading nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Another headline said, Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Why? Because of Suitcase Nukes. They didn't see missiles come in. They didn't see armies come in because they were snuck into our nation back in the 1980s. Just detonated now. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada, north into Canada, but was not everywhere. I saw America with lights flickering. Why? Because they're trying to get the grid back up. It was like the whole country outlining the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii. I saw vultures with food hanging out of their mouth. Vultures with heavy and fat with rotting food hanging out of their mouths. Why? Because the electricity went off. The refrigerators reached room temperature. Everything spoiled. They threw it out, and the vultures started eating it. I saw depression as a creature with a face mask and a smile, but it was choking people, pushing them down to the ground. I saw the St. Louis Arch. I saw people standing under the St. Louis Arch wearing very expensive business suits and expensive watches. At their feet were large briefcases that reminded me of nuclear suitcases. He even says it. He didn't know. At the time, he didn't know that there were nuclear suitcases already in America. Suddenly, all of the alarms went off. They grabbed their briefcases, jumped into the black SUVs, drove off in all directions. Okay, I think I'll read one more. I got a bunch of them. 2022. I was in my childhood neighborhood. People were walking as normal. I saw an airport control tower in the distance, and a huge flash filled the sky. Everything in all directions immediately went dark. No electricity anywhere. What happened? There were no sirens. There were no missiles. It's a suitcase nuke planted perhaps years ago. People started panic running. I said out loud, "Whoa, this must be an EMP blast." It took out all the electronics. Several people ran into a house for shelter. There were men, women, and children with me. After a while, we ventured out, and we finally reached a house that had electricity. The scene changed to my childhood home. A security officer was standing on the top of the garage. A group of people were running, trying to escape. The thought came to me, this must be the mass arrests. Now, I want to believe that the massive arrest of the internal revolution is yet at least, at the earliest, late 24, early 25. That's what I want to believe. I want to believe this is not ready to happen. That's what I want to believe. But I can't guarantee that. But I can guarantee this, you better be ready. josephkitchen.com. Let's talk about Joseph Kitchen. I actually cooked this loaf of bread you're seeing here. Takes me about 10 minutes to put the ingredients together, put it into a bread machine, push a button, 2 hours, 20 minutes later, I get a loaf of bread out like that. Now, if you cut that loaf of bread that weighs about 3 pounds, the loaves you get in the store have most of the good stuff removed. The loaves you get in the store are about 1 pound. That's 3 pounds because it's got the good stuff still in it. Cut that into 14 slices, and if I eat a slice in the morning and the afternoon, I'm satisfied. So on that basis, one loaf can sustain, I didn't say it's everything we want, can sustain one person for a week. Based upon that, it'll get you excellent nutrition. It tastes good, long storage life, 10 minutes to combine the ingredients, 2 hours, 20 minutes to make it. Other wheat that you order arrives in paper bags, which means bugs, rice, humidity can get a hold of it and ruin it. But at Joseph's Kitchen, they send it out in 100 mil thick buckets. Gives you long shelf life. It's stackable. It's nitrogen infuses that hopefully gives it much longer shelf life, kills bugs and things like that. Easily resealable, keep in a climate-controlled area. And they have it in stock. This is a picture, an actual picture of part of the warehouse. Here's another picture of these. Actually, each one of those boxes holds 2,500 pounds of wheat. And I think they've got 54 of those boxes, a bunch of them. So Joseph's Kitchen can ship it to you right now. You go to most of these places, they say out of stock. So here's what you want to do. Everybody needs to get a machine package. These are the things that you need to grind the wheat berries. Put them into a grinder. 30 seconds later, you have flour. You put that into the bread machine along with 6 other ingredients. Push about 2 hours, 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot loaf of whole wheat bread. Then you have to decide how much food you want. You want food 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year. And if you want to make certain you have it when the electricity goes down, you can also get yourself a solar generator, all at josephskitchen.com. josephskitchen.com. So what is an EMP Shield device? It's a device you can put on your car and your house that in an EMP attack is supposed to stop the attack. And if you go to empshield.com and if you use the promo code prophecy, they give you a $50 discount. They also have videos up there, shows you how to install it on your car and your house and everything, and it's not difficult at all. I've got one of them right here. Red goes to red, black goes to black, green goes to the car, body of your car, and you just peel it off the back, stick it under there. Got another device that goes on your house. So not complicated. Take you about 10 minutes to put them in. So empshield.com, promo code is prophecy.